Let's talk about those three things that, well, there's six really because they're all human. But when you're in your feminine, whether you're a man or a woman, there's certain tendencies of things that you're more sensitized to. They're not the only things you're sensitized to. And when you're in your masculine, there's some things you're more sensitized to. And if you can notice your partner and what they're feeling, these will be really helpful. So we'll reverse it.
Sure.
I'll talk to the brothers out there, the masculine people, which can be men or women, but the ones that spend more time in their masculine. The thing you might miss that the feminine force in your life would have, and by the way, let me be clear.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say something too.
If you have two women in a relationship or two men in a relationship or a man and a woman intersexual relationship, in order to have energy, there's an opposite, passion. There's an opposite energy, just like the planet has positive and negative energy, north and south pole, or you go to electricity, two plugs. That's what creates it. When both people become the same, you can have a relationship that works, but it won't have as much passion. When a person's in their feminine, gentlemen, if you are not getting through, there are three things I can point out to you that you want to look for besides the four horsemen that are even quicker. And one of those, gentlemen, is that we can be, when I say gentlemen, masculine energies, can be that a woman feeling or a feminine energy feeling unseen. Again, it could be a man or a woman. If someone feels unseen in a feminine energy, man or woman, there's a deadness inside. There's a loss of energy. There's a wilting away. And again, you could be a man and feel this as well.
Yes.
Right? Second, big one. By the way, ladies, how many can relate to this? Feminine energies out there, men or women. Unseen makes you not feel so good. Make some noise so that people can see. Put it in the latch box.
And you notice a lot of men and women are both. I've just noticed watching all the, image or the pictures of you right now on Zoom. This is the human experience. These are human qualities, experiences. This is where we all meet. It really struck me to see the universality of people that were raising their hands.
And then, and by the way, very often a person if someone cheats in a relationship, oftentimes if it's a feminine energy, whether it's a man or woman, it's because now they find somebody who they feel seen by. They could even be their doctor who professionally they feel the most presence more than they did from the person in their life. And they feel horrible about it, but that's what pulled them. The second one for someone, man or woman, when they're in that feminine energy is not feeling understood. Feminine energy out there, if not being understood makes you crazy, make some noise, give me some thumbs up, show me what it is out there. Come on, make some noise so they see you, right? Now, I remember, with my wife in the early days, not understood. And I realized I didn't understand. There's certain things I'm not going to understand. I'm not going to understand the biochemical storm that every woman goes through that no man will ever fully appreciate. I'll never fully understand what it takes to have a baby come through your body. No man ever will. But I can appreciate. I can understand how painful it would be. If you watched with Will when he said to her, which came from this discussion we'd had earlier in the week, listen, that must have been really hard for you. That was me. I'd coached the whole team before, the gentleman in the room and the masculine energy in the room. You got to affirm the difficulty because masculine energy tries to take big things and make it small and get it done, get rid of it. Feminine energy in all of us wants to take things and feel more of it and expand it. So being understood is really important.
I want to share one more thing as well that innocently, we can all do this, is there's an unconscious belief at times that we can have as humans that the other person knows what we're experiencing, or they know what we're feeling, or they know what we're going through. And I remember earlier on in our relationship when I used to be upset if he didn't understand me. The truth is, I didn't understand myself. And, one of the beautiful gifts of that practice of so is being able to articulate, what it is that we're experiencing or what the sensations that we're feeling. Because sometimes if we're charged or we're hooked, that comes out in a really clunky way, or it comes out in a harsh way. And then we want to be understood or we want to be heard, but, the other person isn't receiving it. That's my job. That's our job. That's 100% responsibility. If I want to be heard or I want to be understood, then I can share from a space that my beloved can actually hear. I don't know if that translates or makes sense or registers.
I think it does.
Yes.
Absolutely. Third one, for masculine energy that you might be missing if things aren't going well, is your partner doesn't feel safe. So unsafe. We're looking at these as 3 U's, feeling unsafe. And this is one that I think, just like Gottman showed that stonewalling is more 85% men, That's not all men, obviously, but mostly men. This one has a lot to do with what your sex is and your biochemistry. And I'll prove it to you. Watch this. Gentlemen out there, and anyone who has a masculine energy, to say gentlemen, I'm really saying masculine energy. If you see yourself as most associated with the masculine energy in your life, raise your hand if you felt unsafe in the last 30 days. Unsafe, raise your hand. And if you look at the screens, I see one hand, right? Two hands, okay? And if I look on the screens here, yeah, a couple. Interesting. Now watch this. If you're a feminine force, raise your hand if in the last 30 days you've had some concern for your safety at some moment in time. Raise your hand so everyone can see it nice and high, please. And if you put it in the chat box, and if you look around the room here, you'll see of those that are coming at least in the physical feminine form, it's about 90%. Now, why is that? Because men don't understand this. Masculine energy doesn't understand this. If my wife, I understand this way, if my wife was going to go underground to underground parking lot late at night, I'm not letting her go without me, right? But I don't think about it when I go down there. I'm 6'7". It's not like I'm some beast or giant, but it's just not my experience. So maybe if I was working in a certain environment that was more extreme and the safety might show up, but it's pretty rare. Men don't understand, masculine energy understand that feminine energy has been a target for so long. I mean, it blows my mind that women go on a date because the most usual way that a feminine woman's going to die, a person's going to die, is at a masculine person's hands. That's why the feminine has had to learn how to sometimes use language or words to take someone down to size in their mind to try to create some safety. Because if you put pound for pound, the same person in a male or female body, the muscular strength is different. It's the bone density is different. It's just there. So there's prey and there's those that have pursued prey, right? Predators. And in the traditional sense, it's there. So men don't realize, and masculine energy understand, that feminine energy, in whatever form, can feel unsafe. And it's a real thing. And so when someone feels unsafe, they close. When someone feels unsafe, you're not going to feel the connection. You might feel rejected when they're just not feeling safe, or maybe you've said things that make them feel uncertain. And so if you notice with Kit and Will, what happened was she tested. This is a common experience of the feminine. Everything's going great now. They've got things going better, and then kick them right in the balls right at that point. Like, yeah, but are you really doing this? And it's actually not her way of trying to be mean. It's her brain saying, reassure me, show me that even if I'm crazy, you're still going to love me. That's what feminine energy does in men too when they're in that energy state. So these three, could you be better at noticing the changes in your partner, what they're feeling, what they're experiencing? Could you better at least giving empathy for what you don't understand and trying to understand? Could you do things to make them feel safe? If you know those three used, your relationship is going to soar with a person who has a feminine energy as a dominant. Now, if they're more masculine, then everybody, by the way, doesn't want to be criticized. We've already made that clear. But notice, criticism is something that if you're in the feminine world, you can give advice. If you're in the masculine world, it's not looked the same way. Men don't usually coach other men on their relationship, almost never. Unless you've paid somebody for that, which most men don't want to do. They don't want to discuss the relationship, right? Most men, they want to keep it inside. So maybe you can share the 3 C's that those that are feminine can notice in their masculine partners, or someone who, if they're in their masculine,
Yes.
can be more sensitive and we want to be more connected to.
Absolutely. Well, the first one being criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And, it can be so slight. It can be so nuanced. Sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it as human beings. As Tony said, sometimes like coaching, believing that I know better for this man. I still catch myself when it comes to Tony's body at times. Maybe if we're looking at the schedule and in my mind's eye, I believe maybe he's doing too much or he's got too much going on or I'm worried about his health. Now it's tricky. It's tricky because a lot of times, mine can justify. It's like, well, of course I love him. I want him to take care of him. So my opinion is better than how he's living his life. And so here's something that I find very, very helpful. Before, And by the way, I catch myself. I do not have this mastered. All of this, these
You
are
do a
just
great job at this.
well, but it's awareness, right? And none of this is about being perfect. It's awareness. If you catch yourself criticizing man or woman, catch yourself. And it's like, hun, do you know what? I just realized right now, I was like, I didn't even realize I was telling you what to do or giving you feedback about how you should do it. I mean, I know it's your life and I know you know better. Sometimes I'll say say the schedule, I'll say, hun, look, this is not even my business, but just as a consideration. And I'll tell him that, like, I just love you. This is completely selfish. It's all about me. I love you and I care so deeply about you. So our state in which we communicate something is so crucial and so important. And, sometimes I'll say, hey, I tried to muzzle her and I didn't today, and I'm sorry about that, because sometimes she has a mind of her own.
Also, it goes beyond that. A lot of times you think your experience is your partner's experience.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze again.
Bless you. I got a tissue.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Hey, guys.
Love you, crazy one.
I love these real moments right now.
It's never happened to me before. It's kind of nuts. When we get on an airplane, for example, my wife has a very, very beautiful, sensitive body that feels every texture and element. And so we get on a plane, and up until recently,
Yes. Okay. This was
for
a
like
big one.
about 10 years,
So when I get on a plane, I love to put my comfies on and sweats, and I have my
love you to do it.
earplugs, and I have an eye mask, and Tony would be traveling, and he'd have jeans on, and I would be obsessed about his experience, believing, like, how can he be laying there? He's wearing jeans, and he's got a belt on, and it's cutting him off, and I'd literally be like, honey, will you please change your pants? I mean, it sounds so ridiculous now when I say it. And why? Because we project innocently. I was projecting his experience. I mean, he just has a body. He can wear whatever he wears, and it doesn't trouble him. I'm the opposite. I love my Snuggies, and I want my little furry socks, and I want, just little things that makes it comfy and cozy.
which I want you to have.
No, I know you do, but I wanted
support
him
in
to
every
have
way.
them too. And this
But she wanted me to have them whether I wanted them or not. Honey, you got to change.
did.
I'm like, honey, I'm in the business of doing something. No, you got to change right now. And she'd be all stressed out. So after a while, all right, I'll freaking change. And then so after a while, it's like, I don't hear the same sounds. I don't need an eye mask. But it was so important to her, and so I started doing it. Now, then I go on the road, and like, I'm not wearing the eye mask. All of a sudden, I'm hearing sounds. I got to put my eye mask on. It became my habit as well, right? So it can be fun to do as well. And by the way,
Yes.
I could be wanting to help my wife. Like, okay, well, we'll talk about this. Let's do that. And if she's in feminine mode, she might want that. If she's more masculine, she's like, I don't need to hear this right now, right? And she doesn't do it harshly like that usually, but I got it, right? It's like, I know you got it. You're the most confident human I know. But it was just a suggestion. But okay, don't tell me what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do.
And isn't it beautiful in this human experience to recognize that we have it all inside of ourselves, We're not one or the other. We have both energies. Bless you. I'm just getting another tissue. And it's really about access to both within inside of ourselves. And every moment, calls something different. And, we don't have to be in this box, or it doesn't have to look this fixed way. Love has many faces, and he shows up in the most beautiful way through us. And these are just things that we have found helpful, definitely. And by the way, for myself anyways, say if I was down a stream and I was not my most conscious self, and maybe I was criticizing or I was harsh in my voice, or the next one is about closing and I felt closed. What I find so helpful is, in the moment is to catch yourself and I'll say, hun, you know what? I'm so stacked right now, and I'm probably not communicating in my best way. And can we just have a reset? Sometimes I'll go and I'll literally move from that space. I'll go like wash my face or brush my teeth. I know that sounds silly, but it's just like catching my breath so that I can come back in and open to the moment. The second one is closing. Once again, we can all close.
Second C, so if you're following along, right?
Sorry.
So if you're looking to see things are sensitive, and you're in the feminine energy, the masculine energy will be turned off if you feel close to them.
Yes. And so, if you find yourself, a lot of times we close because maybe we're feeling fearful, or we're feeling overwhelmed, or we feel stacked, or it's a judgment of our mind. But we all know what that feels like. You know, we know what being open and loving and connected, because it's our natural state. So if you're feeling that resistance, for myself, I speak it. And it's like, Hans, you know what? I'm feeling closed right now, or I'm feeling stacked right now, or I'm feeling resistance right now. It's nothing to do with you. It's
Again,
nothing
notice
to do
not
with
blaming the other for what you're feeling, taking responsibility for
This
what you're
is-
feeling,
yeah.
and then your partner is pulled to you. They want to help. Oh, what can I do? What's going on?
This is my stuff. And by the way, as we admit what we become aware of, it's so easy to see what our partner's doing. You know, oh, he's so this or she's so that. But not the game, but the gift is for our own awareness to see ourselves and then catch yourself. Catch yourself. It's like, babe, do you know what? I'm so sorry. I've been so freaking crazy today. And I just came at you and it just probably felt harsh, or I felt closed. I'm sorry. Can we just reset right now? We always offer a reset in real time. And what does that do? It invokes willingness, it invokes compassion, and it invokes understanding. It invokes an opportunity to come back in the back door and, try this again. It's kind. And so, for myself, if I feel that resistance, I just admit it. And that breaks the pattern. Rather than you're so closed right now. This is all about us. It's all about us. Even in an intimate relationship, you just keep the eye on you, because I can't change him. You can't change her, but I can change myself.
And that's what influences the other.
Yes. Yeah. And no, sorry, go ahead.
No, please. So, but the other one is, is controlled is a universal one. No one wants to be controlled. Who wants to be controlled by somebody out there? Well, maybe in a certain sexual context, somebody might. But controlled is not love, right? So that's true for men or women.
Yes.
But again, if a person's in their masculine, they're even more sensitized to it. And if you're in your feminine and you're feeling unsafe, you try to take control, whether you're a man or a woman. That's what happens. So we'll talk a little about that.
Yes. Well, I'm trying to think of a circumstance right now. There's familiar patterns to all of this, but once again, that control feels like tension, or it can feel like criticism, or it can feel like closing. A lot of these actually, as I think of them, it's nuanced. They link together, or they can actually all come together as an aggregate. But the control, for myself, I think it's just the awareness when I feel that resistance, when I feel that tension, or if I feel, my behavior or my action is less than loving, to just own and clear the space, or remove yourself from the space so that you can get a more sincere resonance. Because if you think about it, it's all energy, and that controlling energy, it can feel dense, it can feel heavy. And so if you feel that, and it's like, oh my gosh, this just feels so awkward, or it feels so, it just feels like so much resistance. For myself, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times it's just leaving that space. And by the way, before I leave, I don't just leave and slam the door. I'll tell him.
No.
I'll say, do you know what, Han, just like, I am so in my head right now, and I feel controlling to myself, never mind you. And so I'm sorry, I need 10 minutes. I'll come back, okay? And I'll walk up the stairs, and for myself, catching my breath, I'm like, all right. I'm like, I talk to myself, like, all right, sweetheart, let's just catch your breath. And I'll follow my breath, and I'll go upstairs and just, get back into my body, get back into my heart, so that I can feel true to myself, never mind true to this beloved that I'm wanting to connect to. And so all of these that we're sharing today, like I said, as I watch, criticize, close, controlled, they really go hand in hand.
They do.
They really go hand in hand. You can,
and they could be for anyone, male or female.
Of course.
Clearly.
Of course. And, it's really just about catching ourselves. That's what this whole experience, this whole human experience, never mind relationship, is about. It's not about perfection. It's about honesty. It's about authenticity. It's about sincerity. And that breaks the pattern. And we forget sometimes, we've been in a place early on in our relationship where it felt so, there's so much resistance both ways. It's like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get through this? You get through that by one person just going first and being like, babe, I love you so much. And I'm so sorry recently I felt so tight, or I felt so constrict, or I felt so controlling. It's not been my intent, and I'm sorry that it's been conveyed that way. I love you so much. That's what it looks like. You just catch yourself. And sometimes, we get into these states of resistance, and we forget our own nature, never mind our beloved's. And so it's been my experience in our relationship that if one person just comes to the moment of clarity, the moment of sanity, or coming back into our heart, to offer that in that moment, it rewrites the narrative. It rewrites the reality. It rewrites the moment. And it's so kind because it's our nature to come back home. We're all walking each other home. And there's nothing more beautiful than to hold the space. You know, at this stage of it's been 23 years. If Tone's off, it's a beautiful gift to be able to hold the space for him. If I'm off, he holds the space for me. We do that collectively with all of our loves in our family and in our life. And I think it's kind to be a bum,
Yes.
B-A-L-M. It's kind to hold this space and be like, babe, you know what? You don't see yourself. Is there anything I could do? Is there anything that would be supportive right now? And by the way, the answer might be like, no, I just need time. That's cool too. You know?
There's no punishment in a
Yes.
beautiful relationship. You're never withholding your love to try to punish the other person, because when you withhold love, you punish yourself. And so many people have been trained, like, I'm going to train this person. I'm not going to give them love if they behave a certain way. You know, remember I talked to you about some of you, and maybe it was during the Q&A afterwards. It may not be the VIP, but there's a book out there I read years ago called Don't Shoot the Dog. It's kind of a funny title, Don't Shoot the Dog. But it talks about how we condition each other. And it talks about you can train a dog by punishing it, but you can't train a dolphin that way because it'll swim away. And so the only way you can train a dolphin is with love or with rewards. And so humans really at the deepest level respond better to that approach than they do by you trying to control. And by the way, if you're dealing with something that's got a masculine energy is about breaking free. You know, feminine energy is about bringing it in. And so sometimes that dynamic plays a role as well. But what we want to see is, throwing back on the screen here, the 3 U's, again, are, and they can be either way, is feeling unseen. If your partner feels not understood or unsafe, if they've got a feminine energy in them in that moment, male or female, you got problems. And what's the opposite? Is to see them, to take the time to understand and have compassion, to do whatever it takes them to feel safe. If they're in that masculine energy, or anyone, if they're feeling criticized, anybody who's even beat themselves up, even you barely say anything, man or woman, they're going to react to it. But if they're feeling criticized or feeling you're closed or feeling controlled, then you're generating the problem yourself. So these are just tools to break through. So just for 1 second, give yourself a score. Give yourself a score on, if you're in a relationship, okay, 0 to 10, we'll do minus 10 to plus 10. Unseen, how often am I messing that one up? Or how well am I doing? I'm not understood. Unsafe. And then you might ask your partner later on about it and have them actually give you their feedback where they feel safe to give the feedback. Or if it's the opposite energy, are they feeling criticized? You know, advice and coaching feels critical for some people. Closed, controlled. How would you score yourself in that area? Just give yourself a score real quick so you can see where you can improve. How would you score yourself overall or in each area together? I'm seeing some of you give yourself an overall score, and I'm seeing 10, I see 6, I see 4, I see 7, I see 4, I see 7, I see 8, I see 9. And by the way, again, would you ever want to date a 4? Would you ever want to be in a relationship, with a 7? I mean, we all have the ability to at least be an 8, 9, or 10, right, if we're conscious about it. So just give yourself a little score, because you can't manage what you don't measure. And so this little checklist, along with a Gottman checklist, kind of gives you a place of where you can look for if things aren't working, boom, or to make sure that they stay working at a great level. Anything else you want to share, sweetheart?
No, it's just, are we wrapping up right now? Am I going?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. We're a little over.
Well, I'm so sorry. It's just been so awesome.
We've
to
had such
be
a good
with you. Thank you for your willing hearts. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your support of each other. And I don't know if this is goodbye. If it is, thank you. And if it isn't, if you guys are choosing to, take the next step at UPW, all I can tell you is I've had a front row seat to watch this beautiful human being pour all of himself. And you've seen the transformation, whether it be Enrico or James or Christina. This week has been a scratch. And I hope that one day, if you choose to, we'll be seeing you at the UPW.